Our first tale comes to us from user Freedom Ain't Free 1030. Thanks again for sharing your experience. I was driving along Old 76, a two-lane blacktop road that runs between Roscommon and St. Helen, Michigan. The time was around 8 a.m. on a sunny, late September morning in 2018. I had been traveling this road approximately 10 minutes and was just entering an area known as Geels. While traveling southbound, I noticed an animal enter from the tree line on my left at about 60 yards ahead. The animal appeared to be a fox as it ran from the left tree line across the two-lane road and entered the tree line on my right, all in the flash of an eye. When the animal had left my field of view, I immediately thought, that has got to be the biggest fox I have ever seen in my entire life. However, I immediately began to realize that it was nothing of a fox because of its size, speed, and peculiar looks. The first thing that struck me was the size of its tail. It was a normal fox-looking tail, being big and fluffy and raised in the air as it ran. It had all the coloration and appearance you would expect of a fox tail, except it must have been 5 feet long. It was then I started to think about its general appearance, and what really stuck out were its ears. The ears were almost comical in nature and appeared as perfect triangles situated on the side of its head, almost like a child had cut them from construction paper. I began to think of what I had witnessed was that something was trying to appear as a fox, but wasn't a fox itself. My thoughts turned to the head of the animal, and it was then I recalled that its forehead was bumpy, with 2 or 3 large furrows that were void of fur. However, the snout and eyes were typical of those of a fox. The largest exception to its fox-like appearance was a large, tusk-like tooth in the back corner of its mouth. I then thought of its body. The head and body was the coloration of a fox, but it was its immense size that made it stand out. The animal itself was almost the size of one of the highway's entire lane. It was huge. It was then I recalled that the animal had cleared the entire roadway, including the clearings on each side of the road, in 4 or 5 great leaps. As I came to the spot where the animal had crossed the roadway, I slowed down and took a good hard look into the area in which it ran. As expected, I saw nothing. I continued traveling into St. Helen all the time, wondering what I had seen. I am convinced that this was not a fox because of my observations stated above. It was the ears that were the most memorable, as they appeared as perfect triangles and, as stated above, almost comical to look at. As odd as it may seem, I am convinced that I had seen some type of animal that may be paranormal in nature and may have the ability to change its shape and appearance. I say this as the animal, or whatever it is in my mind, was attempting to camouflage itself and was aware that passing motorists may see it as it made its dash across the roadway. As it was, I was the only motorist in vision range of this occurrence at that time.
I had my doubts of what it could have been. Thought it was a bear at first glance. But the aggressive behaviors and footprints don't lie. All of the evidence I've found points at Dogman. I was woke up one morning by something tapping on the window to my bedroom. Sounded like a fingernail on the glass. Light tapping, but enough to wake me. I woke up, made some coffee, grabbed a glass of water, and went outside. I sat down and had a smoke and heard some odd noises. Weird, like clicking sound, not cicadas or grasshoppers, I'm used to those. Then about 5 minutes later, a growling sound, very deep but short. This was around 3 a.m. Coffee was done about 20 minutes later, so I grabbed a cup and went back outside to my porch. I took my first sip and I heard this blood-curdling scream about 150 feet behind my porch, maybe the next block over. I finished my coffee and I'm walking inside. Just as I open my glass slider, something attacks my porch door. Beat the hell out of it for almost 5 minutes straight. Scared the hell out of me. I rushed inside, got another cup of coffee, and waited about 20 minutes looking out the kitchen window to see if anything was there. Being that my backyard is completely dark, I'm not sure what I expected, but I gave up waiting and went back outside. I sit down and I'm drinking my coffee and I hear what sounds like my neighbor's new aluminum fence getting the crap beat out of it. I'm looking on my side and nothing. My guess is it went to the other side of his property to beat the hell out of the panels. It stopped quickly, and that was that. No noise for the rest of the morning. Fast forward 2 months. I'm woken again at 3 a.m., same as the first nails on the window event. My dogs haven't barked either time, so I'm suspicious. Make my way outside, coffee ready, iPhone up in case there is something there, and nothing. I'm talking on the phone with my trucker buddies about what happened before, and they don't have a clue. Mind you, we all grew up in these woods well before the internet was invented. So we naturally played in the woods. About 2 hours goes by and the sun is up enough that I can kind of make out this shape in the woods behind my house. It's about 5 foot 5 inches and just standing in this position for a good 45 minutes. I managed to get a picture of it, but it's poor quality. The rest of the day and that night will live with me forever. Not 2 hours later, I heard this tree branch snap off and something crashed to the ground. Something heavy. No mistaking that sound for a tree falling over. Turns out, a tree on the edge of my neighbor's property about 25 feet up, a large branch about 5 inches diameter is just twisted off and snapped like a twig. It's still hanging there. It doesn't even touch the ground, but it's about 12 feet long. I did have a look in the woods for a bit to see if I could find anything. It's mostly one obvious human trail that is used often, 2 to 3 small animal trails, and a really crappy makeshift trail with broken trees littering the outline of the sides of the trail. Quite a bit of big stuff to climb over, logs piled like I've seen and heard about, an odd teepee-like shape, and several grass beds throughout the woods. One was recent. The others didn't look too comfortable. So I get done exploring and go inside for a drink and go out to my garage where I can work on stuff I've been doing for a while. We recently moved to this house, so stuff isn't quite unpacked yet. As I'm going through the boxes and stuff, I hear this loud ruckus coming from the small quarter-acre plot across the street from me. Something big is moving the palmetto bushes, and there was a large dead tree knocked down before, but something cracked it open and was eating the grubs, I assume. The sound quickly went away. I heard whatever it was run north towards the canal, which is super close, maybe 90 feet from my driveway. Fast forward to 10 p.m., I'm still in my garage, but the door is closed this time. I accidentally banged on the garage door, and I heard something on the other side bang back, me thinking it's my kids being the teenagers they are. I bang again. I heard this really loud growl. I run out of my garage and through the house to the outside part. The trash cans are open, and my Thanksgiving turkey carcass, which was in a box, had been taken, but the rancid smell stayed. I followed the smell to my backyard and called a buddy who's seen stuff in the woods, and he tells me to be calm and move slow. I turn off my porch light, and I'm sitting out there smoking a cigarette. I hear my bushes on the corner of the house being brushed loudly. I turn around and I hear something large trample the grass down the side of my yard. The neighbor's dog is going crazy barking at it, so I'm not stupid enough to chase it into the street. Where's it gonna go? I stayed on my porch and waited. This big 6-foot-plus blackish thing runs by from the other side of my house and runs behind my neighbor's house. His security lights kicked on, and it ducked behind their above-ground pool. It's crouched over and I can see it. Twice the width of me, easily 400 to 500 pounds. The following day, I found a paw print in an abandoned anthill in my yard that I had exterminated weeks prior. The morning dew ruined the print the next morning. What makes me think it's a dogman? We have a marsh close by that's about 20 by 20 square miles in size with no trails or roads in or out. There is a waterway within 100 feet of my house that is 12 to 15 feet deep. I grow a lot of my own vegetables and fruits, and some have come up missing. As far as the woods behind my house go, there are several trails. Some are obviously human as they are used frequently by neighbors. However, there are small animal trails which are obvious, and then there are the trails that don't make any sense. They zigzag through bramble vine areas. They are hard to navigate. The trees surrounding the trails are all mostly broken off or leaning like a Bigfoot would do. I haven't found any structures yet, or any markers, no bones. I have received a gift of a pile of leaves on my doorstep one morning. The leaves are from plants in my backyard and have no possible way of magically appearing there.
The first encounter was when I was young trying to fall asleep. I looked out the window and saw it out towards the backyard facing my window at the time. Nowadays, I sleep in the basement. Back on topic, my brother and I always felt nervous looking out the window. My bed perfectly faced the window at the time. The beast was 3 feet away looking into the window. It had yellow eyes, a long snout of a dog, black fur. Its face is kind of human, subtract the snout, and the gnarly long teeth and fur all over its face. Once it realized I noticed, it snarled at me quietly through the window and it stared me down. I slowly pulled the covers over my head. I then proceeded to cry for what felt like forever. Then I ran into my parents' room crying. They told me it was just a dream. I thought that for what was like 8 years until my sophomore year in high school when my brother, my friend, and I were out fishing. My brother loved peanut butter at the time. He brought a plate with a giant serving-sized spoon glob and some Ritz crackers. There's a creek back there, surprisingly some decent fish, mostly chub, but there are bullhead, carp, green-bellied sunfish, crayfish, snapping turtles, and brown trout, but that's really rare to catch there. We sometimes thought it was funny to throw the chub there and leave them at our favorite spot, a giant fallen oak tree which acts like a natural bridge across the creek. It fell due to the amount of weight it was bearing after a bad snowstorm. My friend and I went downstream one summer day. Meanwhile, my brother was fishing alone. He went to go take a leak and he left the food on the other side of the creek. When he came back, he saw it running off. He described it as more of a Bigfoot. He ran to us hysterical. We just thought he was crazy, so we started calling him Crazy Joey. After that, I thought of my run-in with something similar at the young age of the stare down. Later, my friend was busy with lawn work and prepping to move. I was secretly afraid to go out. Joey decided to go back there a month later. He left by himself. I wish I could have seen it to confirm my story. But the second time around, I believed him for sure. He was catching some fish. His line was all screwed up and took it off his pole and re-spooled it. He yelled and scared it, then ran back home for a knife as fast as he can, then cut his line free. I saw something similar to his first sighting. My brother, my friend, and some others were going to fish at an illegal spot. We didn't know it was private property at the time. Whenever me and my friends try out new spots, we have a tradition of casting lures first, then we use normal live bait. I wanted to hesitate because the fish were biting there pretty good at the creek. So sure enough, they went ahead of me across the oak tree towards the quarry. I felt alone after 12 minutes, then I took my bag, 2 poles and tackle I changed out close to the log. I started walking and saw what I thought to be a big gray wolf. In Illinois, anything is possible. My friend got cornered by 4 coyotes out there once, but sure enough, the creature was by another giant oak tree, and I made eye contact again for another stare down. Only different this time since it was on all 4s. It was obviously interested in my friends since it was following the trail that leads there. I yelled and chased it. The look on its face was playful because it was probably pretending not to notice me, so I chased it to the clearing. The retention ponds are on the left and a small prairie on the right. It seemingly went towards the prairie. Sure enough, I quickly forgot when one of my friends caught a pig of a large mouth that weighed 3.5 pounds on the first cast. I waited until we were going to leave to inform them because I didn't want to ruin the fact we were catching fish on every cast. But the guard working there gave us a warning, told us to get out of there as this was private property. I told them. They didn't believe me. The last time we saw something similar, me and my brother were scavenging for roadkill when we saw a black dog thing. It looked at us, ran away constantly back. It moved gracefully through the brush. Meanwhile, me and my brother were absolutely getting torn up by the raspberry bushes. We caught up to it. It waited, then ran away again. We played this game 5 times with that thing, then we couldn't find it again. I live in Roscoe and enjoy being outside. I notice strange things out in those woods. People usually just kick the roadkill off the highway, as it can cause issues if it's big enough like a deer, but I noticed something went out of its way to drag them out to the prairie. Coyotes, maybe? The Dogman thing? Sure, why not? There's plenty of deer, turkey, rabbits. You can even hear the coyotes get excited when they catch a poor rabbit at night. Maybe the snarling of the dog thing.
As county parish SWAT team members and law enforcement officers, we spend a lot of time training in the bayous and wooded areas around Shreveport. Need to crawl through thick woods and creeks and bayou settings. Well, sir, my friend and Deputy Jim and I could not believe the creature we encountered last week in the swamp, a dogman-looking werewolf type of thing that we crept up on over by the old rice mills and took some pictures of the area. We were actually scared shitless, so we kept our distance and checked its movement. This thing was walking around on its hind legs, so we decided to check it out and go watch as it closed in on us. This dog thing was heading for our training area, and we then decided to take the creek to beat it out to our camp. The dogman werewolf came up the fence line and then stayed in the shrubbery to watch us. My partner Jim shot a round over its head to see the reaction. Well, the dog critter walked away towards the woods when here comes another up the old road, and he was looking for us. We laid down and spotted the dogman with our scopes and checked his motion as he walked towards us. He stopped in the road just 7 feet away from us. He was sniffing the air, trying to get a scent. We did not move for 1 minute. He then went to his buddy and they both walked away into the woods. Jim and I were fearful of them, even though we were armed and ready to kill. We waited 5 minutes, then went to our vehicles to write a report on this incident, which our supervisor said was a bunch of hogwash and he would see us again Monday morning. So we had our encounter not knowing what these creatures were and what to do. We will think twice when we go into the dark Louisiana bayou again. There are poultry farms located east of Shreveport. In November of 2017, there had been incidents of dogman encounters on this farm. The footprints, dead chickens, sightings, and even the farmers shooting at the creature with shotguns, rifles, and pistols. Bad part is that there are several other farms over the area that have had these werewolf encounters, and it's bad for business. We must have the wildlife agents deal with tracking them to their lair of residence and terminating the damn things. The frequency of incidents is more and more. These farmers are not in the mood to have their livelihood torn away by these dogmen unless dealt with now. They will do more damage.
As far as being broadcast to the general public about these demons and their doings, they are not informed, and the capers that prevail are unchecked by most area farmers and residents. These stories should be a wake-up call for the law enforcement community and the area farmers as well as the citizens to make a stand against these werewolf dogman encounters.